You're most welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for watching SMART24 TV. We do drive your business. This is the point where we analyze economic policies and get to bring the policymakers on table and discuss some of the things that do affect our business as a country, as a region, and as a continent. Remember, SMART24 TV is there to give you business content 24 hours and 7 days a week. That's our pledge, and you can always expect that as you watch SMART24 TV. Now today on set, I'm also being joined by another gentleman who is from the East African Youth Network, and this is none other than Mr. Jack Tusime, and he is the regional coordinator of the program. You're most welcome, Mr. Jack.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Let me take this opportunity to greet our viewers. Good evening, our viewers. Like you said, I'm from the East Africa Youth Network. Someone may ask himself why so far the network is. Paul had already talked about it, but this is an umbrella body that brings together all the young people in the East African region, in different organizations, universities, and private sector. But specifically here, we're going to focus on the private sector through innovation. So I'm very glad to be here, and I've been following the conversation. It was so great. So I hope I'll match with your pace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tusime, for joining us. And I want to start with you there on the question of the youth integration and what it brings on board for the young people. The biggest problem, to be honest, and we cannot hide from this fact, is unemployment when it comes to young people's challenges currently that they are facing. And I want to get your perspective on whether regional integration will actually bring an end, or at least try to reduce some of the impacts of this big lion called unemployment.
First, thank you so much. First of all, I want to appreciate Smart TV for bringing out this issue of integration. People are not aware about the East African community, and now that we are raising awareness, but that is actually a very important opportunity. Another one, I would want to also talk about the opportunities that the young people can actually get through integration, because the issue of unemployment has been here with us, but now we are looking at the opportunities that we have in the region to ensure that at least we curb that issue, because I can tell you we need to look at the youth of East Africa as an opportunity, because we are the youngest in the regional economic blocks, and with the market that the integration brings, what Paul was talking about, now over 300 million people are coming together. Someone out there should know that DRC has just joined us. Now the East African community touches the the oceans. So, and a young person will now first focus on that particular opportunity of the market, because once we use our numbers correctly, we can easily jump out of poverty and we will not be crying over unemployment. I will talk about the issue of removal of the borders in terms of visa fees. A young person now who is even saying, because you were asking about the innovation. Innovation doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a robot. No. I'll give you an example. A young person, of course, came up with, there was an issue of a certain disease in, this one took place in South Africa, but everyone in the community would expose their toothbrush. And now the germs come on the toothbrush and people now get the disease. So a young person came up with an idea of getting a small box to put in the toothbrushes of people. That person didn't win in the competition, but a company took over that innovation and someone now is getting a lot of money. So the young people in the East African community, we need to first focus on the opportunities. One, the opportunities of the market. Two, the 5 freedoms. There's the freedom of movement, that is one. There's the freedom of goods. You can take your goods from Mombasa, wherever you want. There's the freedom of capital. Someone from Burundi can come and invest his capital here in Uganda or in Juba. There's the freedom of labor. You can easily work with your work permits and everything. So I believe that that is now an opportunity. Now, another opportunity that we have that will actually curb this issue of unemployment through innovation is the one border posts that we have put in the region, because you realize that it used to take 20 days for someone to move goods from Mombasa to Kigali. But now, as I speak, in 3-5 days, your goods are already there. And which goods are we talking about? We are talking about agricultural goods, because we look at the East African Community countries are the ones that are trading with each other more after this integration when it came. Originally, you would find that Uganda is trading more with China than Kenya, which was very unfortunate. But when the East African Community integration came back in 2000, of course, it collapsed in 1975. When it collapsed in 1977, it came back in 2000. And when it came back, we saw trade increasing. We are trading more with South Sudan. We are trading more with Kenya, I mean Uganda, and we are seeing Tanzania trading more with Rwanda and Burundi. So those one border posts that came through customs union are now helping young people to move their goods very fast. That is an opportunity that someone can invest in and make sure that you get money. We are looking at partner states. All the 7 partner states have come up, first of all, to change the education system, what my brother Paul was talking about. They have now gone back to a technical training, because that's what countries like Germany, countries like China, countries like USA used. And by the way, we talk about Singapore and Korea. They are using technical training to change the economic figures in their region. And now, when the universities have all shifted in the partner states, the East African Community, under the Directorate of Social Sectors, they have a Department of Education, and now they have all shifted into train our young people to be job creators, because we all know that if you want your GDP to grow, if you want your socio-economic status to change, you must invest in production. We cannot be a consumer-based community and we think that we are going to transform. So that is an opportunity that is already there. And me, when I'm talking about unemployment, I want young people out there to focus on opportunity. We are educated. We are in a good region that has a very good climate. We have very many people. We are growing and we are integrating. And by the way, the East African Community is among the most secure regions, regional economic blocks in Africa. You've seen what is happening in ECOWAS, whatever. So these are the opportunities that we want to look at and focus on and ensure that at least we use them. So a secure EAC brings a stable economy and brings the aspect of innovation that we are now talking about, because investment of education, when you leave at that, you look at the investment now in the young people. I must congratulate Paul. They have just finished a leaders training in Nairobi. The young people in East Africa came together, National Youth Council, the East African Youth Ambassadors, and the East African Youth Network. They were looking at the ways on how they can accelerate youth engagement in the East African community processes. And one of the things they came up with was to ensure that young people are put at the forefront of economic revolution in the region. And they have put the partner states on task to ensure that they give money to the young people, because we wouldn't want to go back to talk about access of capital, access of land, issues of education. Now we need to talk about the opportunities that are available. Kenya, we're actually asking, because there is a Hustler Fund that was launched last week, I think it was on Thursday. The Hustler Fund is targeting young people who don't have money in Kenya, and they want to ensure that they give them capital to put in their businesses. Hustler is just a term they are using, but they want those who don't have capital to come, and they give them money to ensure that if you leave school and you don't have where to start from, you're given that money, you start. That's an opportunity for young people in Kenya. In Uganda here, yes, we have issues of renaming, but focus on opportunities first. The parish development model is here. It's targeting young people, 30%. Let's use that opportunity to ensure that we get that money. We put it there through MYOGA and they are issued. In Rwanda, they have brought aspect of innovation through technology. They're giving young people who are innovating to ensure, some funds. If you come up with your idea, the Rwandan government will fund you to ensure that you scale up that idea and you make some money. The same thing with Tanzania in agriculture. Burundi, we were in Burundi, I think it was in October. The president has started what they call PAEJ, for them it's in French, but what they call the Economic Empowerment and Youth Employment Initiative by the president himself. He gets money, I think it's 40 billion Burundi francs. So he gets that money, puts it in a pool. They identify young people in communities who have ideas. I got a chance to visit some of the ideas that the young people were promoting. I saw a hatchery. One of the issues that they had in Burundi is that they were importing eggs. A tray of eggs in Burundi is like 20,000 Uganda shilling. And they were getting the eggs from Tanzania, because you pass Kigoma city, then through Mabanda city. And so that was also a challenge to export eggs. So the president said, why can't we invest in this? So they have started investing in hatcheries, where young people are now the ones driving that agenda. Produce chicks, give to communities and into young people to ensure that at least you create more jobs. That's the money they are putting in. South Sudan is the same, is doing the same. DRC is doing the same, but we need to work more when we talk about the opportunities. Now another opportunity is on infrastructure. The EAC is among the most connected blocks in Africa. I think maybe South Africa, but of course Southern Africa also is, they can't beat us. SADC. We have our roads. You can move from Dar es Salaam on tarmac up to Bujumbura and make round. So the young people now need to focus on how to use these opportunities that the EAC is bringing. And actually there's even a fund, an infrastructure fund, that is put there to develop the road network. Of course, we still have challenges of air transport. Our air tickets are still very high for young people to get, but I think that one can be worked on. I saw people were not happy about Uganda making roads in DRC, but this is a no-brainer. If you connect the regions, it becomes so easy for you. If you have milk from Barara, to just export. I'll give you an example. DRC exports beef from Brazil by air. And that's an opportunity for young farmers in Uganda, in Kenya, everywhere. And if there is no road now to go to DRC,
how will they access?
How will they access? And now, I pray that the EAC will come and also each partner state put a certain amount of money to connect DRC. So that each province, the 26 provinces in DRC are all connected. And let me tell you, once those roads are connecting DRC, we are going to see an economic boom in the region. Now also talk about the child, of course, opportunity in tourism. You will tell someone that the EAC has the highest point in Mount Kilimanjaro, and the center of Africa is in Arusha. We have the fresh lake bodies. We have all these beautiful natural resources around us. If a young person invested in tourism, for example, because this is just a mindset change, a young person out there should come and start a tour company. The people are coming in. We just need to look at that. Now there's also another activity of the mineral sector.
Okay.
With the joining of DRC, I think there is no part in the world that beats EAC when it comes to minerals.
And I want to bring Mr. Rukundo in here in the discussion. The East African community in 1977, or between 1975 and 77, before collapsing, there was no single currency, but there was 1 Kenyan shillings was equivalent to 1 Ugandan shillings. It was equivalent to 1 Tanzanian shillings.
It was there, the East African shilling.
That has actually changed a lot. And it's one of the things I think Right Honorable Kadaga was actually trying to flaunt on the floor of Parliament very recently.
Yeah.
And big discussions were there in Parliament over whether this is viable, also having a common language. You see all these things coming up, the language, the currency. And all these still come back to the opportunities that these young people are looking for in these countries. When you're crossing the border to Kenya, I saw a small skit by Salvador. He went for a haircut in Nairobi, and they told him the haircut is, I think they told him 3,000. And he thought, oh, that is very cheap. He didn't know that actually that was over 90,000.
Yeah, that's 120.
120,000.
Yeah.
And he realized later when he came back to Uganda that he didn't have enough money, had to actually transact. But coming back to the question of integration, are these some of the loopholes that actually need to be addressed? Currency, cultural, maybe the language, and these barriers to our integration as East Africa?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. Definitely these are barriers. When you talk of language, when we are talking of trade, trade is connected much with the language. In that, the trade is about negotiating. You're having a deal, we table it on the table, we discuss the deal and negotiate. So how do we negotiate when there is a language, when there is a language barrier? Recently, I think we were with the first Secretary General of the EAC, Honorable Manya Mushega. So he was telling us a story that there's a time when they moved as the Secretariat of the EAC, so they were in China to negotiate the deal. So they had Manya Mushega from Uganda, some other people from Tanzania and Kenya. So when they are negotiating, the Chinese are busy, in their caucus speaking their Chinese. And for them, they actually need to speak English so that even the Chinese can hear what they are discussing. They don't have a common language that they can leverage on to discuss a deal. So that is also a challenge, because even recently when we were in Kenya, it's because Kenya actually speaks some English, but you cross to Tanzania, you cross to Congo, and you find that you can't easily communicate with some of these people. So how do we integrate when we have differences in languages? And that's why I think they actually passed the Swahili language and French to be the main languages, Swahili, English, and French, to be the main languages of the community, but of course giving the first priority to Swahili. But the challenge now is the implementation of some of those protocols that are actually passed. Because I remember the argument, they actually said that Swahili should be taught in elementary classes. In primary, for us we have the primary school, that Swahili should be taught from primary up to tertiary. But since it was passed, I think in 2005 or something, nothing has been happening. Nothing has happened in that regard. And recently they again said that cabinets should actually have Swahili lessons. Every Monday when the cabinet sits here, they're supposed to have Swahili lessons. I heard the Minister of VSC, Honorable Kadaga, talking about it. So when we have a language, it becomes very easy for us to connect. What we have are, these, we are one, we are just separated by borders, because where I come from, we are in the borders of Congo and also Rwanda. When I'm talking to people from Rwanda using my native language, we can hear each other. But what we are now going for is to have a common one language, so that we can be able to talk to each other and negotiate with each other when we do not have difficulties in that sense. Then for the monetary part of it, when we have a single currency, it becomes easy for the trade to happen. We don't have to lose money in exchange, in transferring a shilling to a Ugandan shilling to a Kenyan shilling, because the rates are different. So you find that if I had the budget of 1 million to purchase things in Nairobi, when I reach there and I change it to Nairobi currency, the money becomes less for what I had actually planned to purchase. So when we have a single currency, it becomes much easier for the trade to flow. And I am glad actually there are some progress in that sense of monetary policy, of monetary union. Only that recently I think there were 4 countries that submitted their bid on where to have the Central East African Bank set. And I think Uganda is in the race, then Kenya, then Rwanda. So there are some progresses that are already in place, and we pray that we actually achieve that, so that we become one, we integrate socially and culturally, then we integrate, economically. We are able to have a single currency. We have, and trade really happens with much ease when we have those structures and institutions in place to monitor the trade that is happening within the region. I think there are great opportunities for us, and we should actually push it, because, for example, me, I'm undergoing a Swahili lessons. I'm going through Swahili lessons, and I am actually getting money from my pocket to pay for that. The reason why I'm doing so, it is because I know what it means to have a single language, to communicate with the Congolese, to communicate with a Kenyan, to communicate with these other people. Because for them, Swahili is all over their countries. And for us here, we have over 1,000 languages that each one speaks whatever he wants, and it becomes very hard for us to trade, to connect, and also to benefit from the integration that is before us.
Thank you, Mr. Okundu. I want to return to you to the issue of the innovation and some of the opportunities that young people are taking hold of here in East Africa. Mr. Tusime mentioned the fact that innovation is not what people think. Innovation is not coming up with robots, and it's not just that. Yes, it's not limited to that. You've been in the agricultural sector, like you mentioned. You've been able to export to all these different countries. What are some of the innovations that you think young people can actually tap into, and which sectors in particular are some of these innovations, so that people actually get enlightened on what really innovation is about?
For me, especially in the sector that I've been in, I always have discussions with Jack. He normally tells me to add value to some of the things that I export, because for him, he believes that when you add value, now you are actually the value you add is also translated into the money. If you have been selling it at 5,000 Ghana shillings, if you add value, then it becomes 10,000. So, and I think that area of value addition, it is also part of transforming a product into something else, which I think it is the real definition of innovation. You come up with something that is maybe new or has been existing, but you add something into it to make it more appealing and more beneficial. So I think in the area of agriculture, of course, I always want us to be so realistic in some of these discussions, because I don't want to tell a young person to go out there, and start, coming up with robots, which is also okay, but also to a smaller level, we can have some small things that we can come up with that can really also do some things. There was a student at Chambogo. He's actually from my village. So all of a sudden he came up with something that was in form of, before we saw these drones that were taking photos and all that, before me I saw them, I first saw that young man from Chambogo coming up with something like that. And we are all wondering how he came up with such, such product. So, but now, there was also another person from Makerere who came up with the tear gas. So, what I agree with is that young people are there who have the potential to actually do some of these things. So, what we need to push now is that how do we now make sure that we have an environment that actually promotes these young people to come up with these products, and they are supported and they are able to, commercialize some of these ideas. So if they reach at the level of commercialization, then now they are able to, intensify the innovations and also come up with so many other, products. So even in the sector where I am, of course, for us, agriculture, in